What's up, y'all? Today we're dropping one of our favorite moments from our live archive. If you want the full archive for Q Points Live, become a member at qpoints.com. We love y'all. Enjoy the episode. Peace.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Q Points Podcast. I am DJ Sir Daniel.
And my name is Jay Ray, sometimes known by my government as Johnny Ray Cornegay III. Sir Daniel, what's happening?
A lot is happening.
A lot is happening.
A lot. So, where do we begin? All right. So, I don't know if you know this, Jay Ray, but yesterday, the Atlanta Police Department held a press conference recounting a shooting that took place over, I think it was last summer.
Okay.
A shooting that happened and it took the lives of two young black boys who literally they just turned 13. It happened on their birthday. Okay. And the police are saying that they literally were able to be 13 for only 24 hours or less than 24 hours. It was terrible, right? So during this police conference, they held the press conference. During the press conference, Atlanta rap artist Lil Baby, well, not during the press conference, but some people dug up the arrest warrants, and Lil Baby's name came up in the arrest warrant, being named as the alleged catalyst for this shooting due to him filming a music video in rival gang territory. So APD, Atlanta Police, their theory is that the video shoot sparked a summer of violence in Atlanta. Did I just say Atlanta? Atlanta over the summer of 2024. So I bring that up to say the assumption made is that a young black celebrity, in this case Lil Baby, has the influence to shape the community to be a more positive place, right?
Yes.
And that is assigned to them because they are considered are talented, what they used to say back in the day, are talented 10th, right? Now I wouldn't conflate Lil Baby with the term that we're discussing tonight, genius. And that's no shade.
That's no shade to Lil Baby.
It's no shade to Lil Baby, but it's part of the conversation we're having about responsibility and burdens that we place on people who are given that label and who are thrust in the spotlight and who have the eyes of, at times, the nation, and particularly the black community on them at all times. So this conversation sparked because you and I made sure that we checked out the Sly Stone documentary on Hulu, and which is fantastic.
Yes.
Please, if you have your own subscription or you need to borrow somebody else's subscription, make sure you check out that documentary currently on Hulu. It's amazing. But J-Ray, there's a section, it's at the very beginning of the documentary where we see the shadowy figure, this big hat, and somebody lighting up a cigarette. Yeah. And it happens to be D'Angelo. And my mind was blown because I was like, damn, you really hardly see D'Angelo and you barely hear him get to speak.
Oh, yeah, he doesn't do interviews and stuff like that anymore, no.
At all, but because you know who, Ahmir,
it's Ahmir Questlove.
Is behind the cameras and is behind this documentary. Of course, he sat down to speak to him. And Ahmir asked him a question, and he asked a lot of different musicians the same question: what is Black genius? And that sparked our conversation about what we're having tonight, what we're having during this episode of Q Points. And we're going to talk about it. What is Black genius? Can it be defined? Is it J. Ray, what do you think? Is it a fair title to put on people?
Is it a fair title to put on people? It's so funny because I think Sly in that interview was also being asked to grapple with that.
You mean D'Angelo?
D'Angelo, yes, but then Sly, they kind of did it with Sly too. When the interviewer was kind of doing the same thing. And I think the answer is it's okay to put the label on folks. I think it can be acknowledging the brilliance of that person. I think the problem becomes what society does with people we put in that category, right? So in terms of how we kind of deify them in a way. Viz is asking the question, and I'm going to ask this here for you, Sir Daniel. When you ask that question, are we thinking specifically in the arts or just in general?
I am, because we're always asking questions and putting lofty expectations on people in the arts, specifically celebrities, specifically in the musicians, Black musicians. I would say that's what we're speaking on tonight. And so, yeah, we're speaking to them specifically because they have become the go-to figures. Whereas back in for instance, in the civil rights movement, whereas our celebrities back then were Martin Luther King, and Hosea Williams. Those are the people that we look to for guidance. We look to for strength. We look for their plans. We look for them to tell us to tell us, okay, where are we meeting next? Where we, mostly because we had a common goal. So they were able to wrangle us together, or to make those battle cries that we listened to and we followed them. And so they were able to galvanize a whole community across the country, we look to them and refer to them as Black genius. I would say, in my opinion.
No. I don't think you're off. I think you're on to something. But the thing, what makes this a problem today? I think what makes this conversation a challenge today is the way we communicate with one another happens in such a flash in the pan sort of way. And we've watched people call themselves geniuses, and then we did the show. So we have a show coming, by the way, y'all should check out, about Ye, who kind of said that this is who I am, and then people treat you as such. Why do I point this out? I think the challenge with the moniker genius is that it becomes another way to celebrity. I think ultimately when we use genius today, it's not always because they're great or astute at the thing that they do, but they realize that if I get called a genius, it is going to put me above other people. For instance, one of the geniuses music-wise that I can speak to is absolutely Stevie Wonder. Okay. I've never seen an interview or heard anyone say that Stevland Morris felt like he was greater than the other people, right? He used his gifts to free us all, right? So when I think about like quintessential genius, I think of people like that. I think the problem with genius is we equate genius to celebrity, and that's the problem.
genius, like diva. What else? What are other terms that we throw around loosely? Hot. All of these, we throw around a lot of terms, a lot of accolades very loosely, especially today. We throw them around. We just give them out willy nilly. Sometimes these people haven't really earned those labels.
Ashe.
And we just tend, and because if you get 500,000 likes on that, then everybody agrees that yes, this person is a genius.
Yeah.
But and so I think that in of itself is dangerous, not only to the person that we're mislabeling, but it's dangerous to us. It's dangerous to, I think it's dangerous to, like, for instance, those young men that I mentioned earlier who were shot at this because of the aftermath of Lil Baby shooting a video in rival gang territory. And even though I'm not saying that the two are correlated or related, because that's just the allegation that is being made now, but a lot of people, especially young people, are formidable and are looking for someone that they think has more knowledge than them to guide them.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's something that may not be present in the home, or a lot of times that happens because we don't consider maybe that person is closer to them in age. And nowadays, especially, there isn't a lot of respect for elders.
Yeah.
We don't see that a whole lot these days. There just isn't a lot of respect for elders. And that comes out of this culture of not always taking what the elders say as 100%, which I don't have a whole lot of beef with, but it's kind of almost verging on disrespect and disdain for every and anything that's considered old. And so when that happens, then you have a lot of people, young people looking outside of the people that they come in contact with, like outside of their school teachers, outside of the bus driver that takes them to school, outside of their parents, outside of their grandparents, and so it just feels like that is part of like you said, the glamorization and the idol worship of a lot of people who just happen to have a lot of attention placed on them. And then you start throwing out the term genius to them because they made a dope beat. They were able to chop up a beat really quickly.
Yeah.
And that boy's a genius. That girl's a genius. It starts off like that, really innocuous, but then it becomes a problem in the long run when you don't think about it, but it's back there in your head. You think, oh, I can take what this person is saying as gospel.
Yes. And I think this came across in the Sly documentary a lot. But one of the things I wanted to mention is I believe that every person on this earth has something that they do that is working in their genius. I truly, truly believe that. The challenge is, right, we know that not everybody can get there, though, right?
Exactly.
We know that not everybody can get there, but we all have something that is like, that person is in it. That is their genius work right there, right? And the beautiful thing that I think about the genius work, that's when we get stuff like Songs in the Key of Life, right? When that person recognizes, no, this is what I am here to do. This is my work, and I am going to do it at the highest level that I can do it. And but even more than that, it's bigger than me. Right? And for some folks, it's all consuming. right?
Yes.
So it consumes you. And I think that's what we saw in the Sly documentary. Q-Tip brought that up, and he was like, if you have this thing, it gets bigger, and then it becomes a monster, and then it becomes bigger than you, and then it swallows you if you let it. So you have to have people around you that are also going to be like, hey, you real close to that edge. You are brilliant. But you know what I mean? But
yes, I do. I understand what you're saying, because we'll take, okay, so I think where J. Ray is going, and I hope I'm following here correctly. Yeah. There are a lot of people that we call genius who also have these, who also tend to be painfully shy, socially awkward, have their own little tics. Now that we're in this age where we have a lot more information about people being born in spectrums, different spectrums, you know, the word autism comes out a lot, ADHD, all of the different things that have been undiagnosed back then or not really paid attention to, especially in the Black community, because of course, medically, we are the last people to be included in those conversations and discoveries. End up
in that research.
Exactly. So we dealt with that. Michael Jackson, you know, he's just eccentric. He's a genius. We'll let that go. Yeah. But then fast forward a few years later, there are other people that we are calling genius that, you know, their behavior becomes a little more outlandish. You have people who, you know, who like to take younger people and put them and make them their concubines and keep them locked up and keep them locked away and, you know, perform different things on them that they shouldn't. And then they record that, or they just do really bad behavior.
Right.
And so I think what we were doing is we weren't drawing a line between somebody being socially awkward and somebody just playing the fool and exhibiting really bad behavior and excusing that bad behavior as just genius. It's like, and then we get to the point where now it's like, they're not, they were really a bad person. And it's like, well, why do we get upset when we buy tickets to the circus and clowns start acting like clowns? You know?
That's exactly it, right? There is this thin line, right? And I'm gonna use an I statement. I need to be better at being able to distinguish, right, when that line is being crossed. You know what I mean? And then be able to adjust accordingly, right? But I do think in thinking about responsibility, and this is going back to the Lil Baby thing, I do think it does bear the question, if we have these folks that do have genius, they're working in their genius, they have genius ability, and they're working in that genius. Specifically musicians. Is it their responsibility, right, to represent all of us? And that's another question, right, that comes along with this Black genius. We saw Sly, right? And when you look at this documentary, the undeniable, like, that, pause. There's a thing I did not know. I did not know that Sly Stone, the original version of Somebody to Love, was produced by Sly Stone. And it was when Grace Slick left the group, I think it was called the General Society, she took that song with her to Jefferson Airplane. But Sly Stone did the first version of that song with them. That was like, what in the world? I had no idea. So when you are working at that level, and Sly had to face this about Black folk coming, and I think we do this to Black people a lot. When Black people ascend to a particular level, it's like, now when you get up there, you make sure that you are repping all of us.
Right.
And I get why we do it, because we have been so marginalized and oppressed that when somebody is a little bit visible, we get whatever. But it's ultimately a question: is that a responsibility?
And I think specifically, what we saw, an example of what we saw is that Sly was being asked for a financial responsibility.
He sure was. $100,000. That's a lot of money in the 60s.
That's a lot. That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
And his response was, "No, why you think, tell me why you think I need to give this to you?"
Right.
Which is a fair question.
Mm-hmm.
But the understanding behind that was, no, you need to remember where you came from and who you belong to. And unfortunately, the Black community, what we like to do is when we remind people of that, and if they don't move according to what we say or what we think they should do, we tend to cast them out and call them all kinds of derogatory terms
and all types of stuff.
There are members of the community that feel, I don't know, that Jay-Z and Beyonce are responsible for wiping out poverty, wiping out, police violence. They're responsible for, like, people should have new homes, I guess. There's this, in some cases, unreasonable expectation of people like a Jay-Z and Beyonce to do things that because they have a lot more money than the average person in the community, that they should be doing. And so I'm like, y'all are really quick to hate on somebody because they don't do and jump when you say jump. And I don't think that is fair to the people that we consider our Black genius. And I'm doing that in air quotes for the listeners. It's just a really weird thing that we tend to do to people. We start to eat our own people once we feel like they're not doing what we want them to do.
So I think this also, of course, there's so many layers in this Sly documentary, because of course that came up too when they were talking about Dream Hampton actually really put an exclamation point on this. There is both a fear of not being good enough and a fear of succeeding at like the same time. Like both things are happening simultaneously. It's like there's this fear, that's that imposter syndrome that we talk about. So that's when we started talking about Sly as being painfully shy and like all of these things. But then in addition to that, there's also this, like, for Black folks, this intense fear of success because of all of what that brings. And I think that gets to that piece. And I think what you're also underscoring is this is the problem with capitalism. And this is the problem. This is ultimately a problem with like racism and white supremacy and how it forces us to do this to our folks, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I think in all of this, I think where I ultimately landed, because when we were first kicking around this question, me, I'm like, of course, every artist has a responsibility to their people and their tribe. Of course they do, Sir Daniel. And now I'm like, baby, but that's stressful. I will do what I can. I should do what I can. And let that be it. Right? At least for me. And we did have some people respond to this. I think it's a good time to bring in those comments too.
Yes.
So, Kitty for Men over on TikTok said, not all Black musicians have a responsibility to put out music that is authentic to them. Not all Black musicians have a responsibility to put out music that is authentic to them and how they see the reality. So I think what they're saying is, no, they don't. Carlton said, Black musicians have a responsibility to their musicianship. So where I think even, Q Points fam checking me too, and where I was with it, was like, no, Johnny. First of all, when I think about it, that's a lot. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It's like you said, it's some people call it an ivory tower. It's an ivory prison.
Ooh,
Being a labeled a black genius, like
bar.
we've been, white supremacy has truly done a number on us, and it's been like this ripple effect in a pond that just continues. The waves just continue to follow us century after century. And a lot of people, we're doing it to ourselves now. They don't have to do anything, but we have, except every now and then they do remind us. There was a point in that Sly documentary where people were saying they didn't want Sly to be revolutionary on his songs.
Yeah.
They didn't want him to be an activist in the music. And then it brought me to present day when was it Megyn Kelly or one of those people on the right in the media that said they wanted people to shut up and dribble regarding to our athletes. So it's like, the white supremacy says, if you've been given this opportunity and given this money, you need to shut up, and you better not complain. And so that's one prison, ivory prison, that black genius puts you in. Then you have another prison of not being able to be completely free.
Yeah.
To be who you are, or if you start doing things that is free to you, or doesn't necessarily follow the way that other people do it, then you become an outcast. Then you become then people start calling you weird. Then you have to run around wearing surgical masks. If you're dealing with different problems, people think that you're on drugs, and then you might end up on drugs. It's just it's a really terrible ripple effect that continues to haunt us. And then the things that we do to each other, J. Ray, like, there's still people who hate the fact that there was, remember the term the talented 10th?
Oh yeah.
That we used back in the 50s and 60s to describe the people who went on to, our prestigious universities, our HBCUs, and then it felt like they were being segmented, and so they're the talented 10th, and they don't have nothing else to do with y'all ghetto people. And, the cost of escalating and operating in your genius. I love that term. Instead of calling somebody a genius, operating in the genius of music, operating in the genius of finance. I think that instead of putting that label on people, we shouldn't start referring to people by what they do.
Yes.
Just operating in whatever it is you do, I think is a really dope way to put it. But I think that's we putting each other in these ivory prisons.
That's real talk. Yeah. What do y'all think? In terms of this particular question, one, that idea of genius, and you know what? I do want to bring in a comment because Trey said this. The word genius is being thrown around way too much. Growing up, our bar for genius was very, very high. And I know that I can speak for myself. In fact, I would look at people like Prince is a good example, Stevie is another. But also there would be people in my personal life where you would just be like, that person literally walks around Chester is like brilliant, just brilliant. I don't even understand how they do that. I see my cousin that way. She is just like, I don't know how you do that thing that you do, but it's amazing that you're able to do that because I cannot. There are genius walking among us in our lives. They're not just musicians. They're like walking among us, and we see it, and they don't have to call themselves that. We just know.
I think you just said something when you were referring to your cousin. You were talking about the fact that your cousin could
shout
do
out
something.
To Lynette, she's not watching tonight, but shout out to Lynette.
Well, you were referring to the fact that Lynette could do something that you couldn't do. Yeah. So you assigned to her the label genius. And I think, and if you think about it, we do that a lot. And I don't think people understand how harmful it is to, I'm going to use an old Bible term, to covet. Covet each other's gifts.
Ooh. you
that's
better talk about it.
doing. And in this, and listen, social media makes it really, really easy for us to covet one another and covet one another's gifts. And so I think for our well-being as a people, is like sometimes we gotta ease back and really think about how the cost that people paid for their gifts, whether natural or the things that they've been able to acquire.
Yeah.
We got to really step back and think, what was the trade-off? Because if you knew, listener, if you knew what Prince paid to do what he did, if you knew we all saw what happened to Prince and Michael Jackson.
We saw
but
it.
we don't know what Stevie Wonder had to do pay for his genius. We don't know what, DMX. Well, there I go naming dead people again, but we don't know. My point is we don't know, and we should really, really, really check ourselves when we start to impose our feelings of inequity on other people and try to use what they have to measure ourselves and our growth and where we are and who we are in this world, because it's just not going to end well.
Sir Daniel, that is a word. And to that point, so there's two comments that have come up in the chat from YouTube. One is from Trey. Maybe the word we should be using is brilliance. Yes, we can borrow that from the Brits. Absolutely. We love them.
Brilliant.
And Mark also added, genius is a heavy crown to lay on someone that not everyone is strong enough to carry. And that's absolutely true. And I think also, Sir Daniel, what you are underscoring is just a reminder for all of us that we all got gifts. We all got gifts.
Yes.
And don't let nobody tell you different. Right? I think I'm still learning at my big age to be okay, to be okay accepting my gifts. Right? I'm be 48 and still figuring out how to be okay with sitting in the things that I do well, right? We all got something. Y'all, if you listening to this, you got something. Lean into your thing. Lean into your something. And we really need you to lean into your something. We need you to lean into it.
That's it. Thank you for that.
If you could see our faces, hear our voices. Thank y'all so much for being here. We love y'all. Make sure that you subscribe to Q Points. Visit our website at qpoints.com. There you can sign up for our newsletter. But you can check out all the old shows too. And then you can shop our store at store.qpoints.com. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all.
Absolutely. And what do I always say? And in this life, you always have a choice. You can either pick up the needle or you can let the record play. This has been Q Points Podcast, dropping the needle on Black music history. We will see you on the next go round. Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all.